And to shed more light on this issue, we're glad to be joined today by Dr. Mervat Madkour, Professor of Political Economy of the Middle East Research and Development. Good morning, Dr. Mervat.
Good morning to you, Naveen.
Good morning, Dr. Madkour. And first of all, how do you assess the electoral process with the Egyptian expats abroad so far?
Well, they said yesterday that the number of those who went to elections were higher than the first phase. Okay, the first phase, as you remember, was covering about the half of the governorates in Egypt. But those who went to elections, they were around 27 million point something. Okay, today they will be 28 million point 2, almost 2.5. Okay, so in fact it is also half of the governorates, as you know. Okay, so yesterday they did the elections abroad, and it was really very significant what happened.
Dr. Mervat, how far do you see the importance of accomplishing the third step of the Egyptian roadmap that was planned for after the June 30 revolution?
Exactly.
How do you see the importance of this step in accomplishing the political stability in Egypt and the road to democracy?
It is the conclusion, actually, because we've had the constitution, which was #1 to be covered by the roadmap, which now President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has put forth to the people back on July 3rd, if you remember, of 2013. So we have had the constitution. We have had later, it was either or, the parliament comes first or the president, but at that time we needed desperately somebody to really take off with the presidency, because usually the elections in a parliament takes much longer time than the presidency, because you have, as you know, the list, okay, and independent people who do go for the elections, as is the case today. But the problem is actually that people are still not really sure who they should be voting for. In addition,
but I think during the period before we started the second phase for expats yesterday and for Egyptian inside Egypt today, there was a little bit more exposure of the candidates, more than the first phase. We've seen them a lot on TV, and I think they're working on this issue.
It's not that they come on TV, Naveen.
But
the problem is with those who
talking about their plans, and they
for those who go to vote, they have to be aware. What are their aspirations? What are their goals?
They should have a plan.
Exactly. They should have. Indication, or an indication for democracy, if you have 93 or 94, or even now they say it's over 100 political parties. It means that everybody is still, you know, the ego, me, I am capable. No, it's we like teamwork everywhere, even in managing our affairs, even in managing, even the government. Some of them do not have or do not understand the word teamwork. If we really want to manage our affairs better, to manage a good company, to manage a state, we have to really work in harmony together, hegemony, not one that goes right while the other goes left.
Yeah, because the only thing orchestrating people is the personal interest. That's why they're not working in harmony.
And some even, you know, Dina, what really amazed me, take off this immunity which is granted to members of
I was
parliament.
just saying that yesterday.
Exactly.
That would be the only solution.
The problem is, exactly, and you will find lesser people really going for, going
The only
through
people
this.
with the national interest.
But what I liked yesterday about some people who were talking about the elections, that the political money, which is in support of certain candidates, have really been not yet defeated, but I believe in today's elections and the expats, it will be defeated. Why? Because you want a free will that is not financed, okay, that has its own agenda and is telling the candidate who is financed by them, his campaign is financed by the rich or the business people to dominate the arena. We want people who represent the people. And that's the essence of democracy, right?
Right.
It is
of course
to be governed by the people, for the people, and for the good, not for the good of certain class, or not for the good of a person. What I liked very much about President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, when he said, I'm not indebted to anyone. That means he wasn't financed by anyone. He didn't need any financing. When you are good, you don't need finance.
Of course, but for President Sisi, it is we, the people, have
Demanded.
mandated him from the start. He did not want to be
Right.
occupying that position as a president.
Yes.
So he didn't even had to post any one of his postures over the walls of the streets on the first place, because Egyptians wanted him, even when he even didn't have this desire to be able to come to office. But my question to you is now, as we are exercising, we are obliged to be abided by the electoral silence that will continue until the end of the electoral Right. I guess if you can excuse me now, we have with us over the air online Mona Musilhi from one of the polling stations in Al Saida Zainab district in Cairo. Good morning, Mona.
Yes, good morning to you, Dina. A fresh good morning, and the second stage of the parliamentary elections taking place. Dina.
Right. If you can tell us, how do you assess the electoral process over where you are in this polling station? The turnout is high? Are people flooding, starting to flood to the polling station?
Dina, can you please repeat the question, because you're... If you can see the picture behind me, Dina, there are lines, and that is a fresh beginning, as we can say. Today we can say that the turnout could be much, much higher than the first stage that we have seen together during the 2 days of the post phase. Now we're speaking about the second phase, and if you can see the picture behind me, right behind me, lines are standing. The polling station in itself has started a little bit late, because the judge did not arrive exactly on time, but already it has started right now, and I guess the process is going on smoothly. If you just let me give you a brief idea about Sayyida Zainab, because it's one of the important constituencies in the Cairo governorate. We're speaking about 21 candidates who are competing for one seat. We're speaking about 196,000 eligible voters, and we're speaking about 19 candidates, individuals, and 3 others for parties. We are also speaking about a very heavy and high competition among the candidates. Some of them are businessmen, some of them are known, and others are not. We'll see how the competition will go on. Dina.
Right.
Good morning, Mona. Mona, did you get the chance to meet with any of the monitoring organizations, representatives of the monitoring organizations at your end, or people representing human rights organizations?
I can't hear your voice well, Dina. Please repeat
Did you
the
get the
question.
chance, I'll repeat my question, did you get the chance to meet any of the representatives of the monitoring organizations or the human rights organizations?
Yes, as you see, Dina, we have just started. So we did not yet receive anyone other than those voters who came to cast their voices. So I guess, yeah, maybe later on we'll be able to see how the, of course, the elections of this phase will be observed. Will there be representatives for any of the candidates? And we'll see later on in the day. However,
Right. Mona Msalhi, Nile TV correspondent at Al Sayyidah Zainab. Many thanks for joining us.
Going back to you, Dr. Madkour, we were talking about what we were talking about because we were in the middle of the question. We are exercising the electoral silence and it's supposed to be, forced on us until the end of the electoral process. But also you were talking about the importance of people who are propagating for themselves and the political awareness and of course everyone has to exercise his political right but also should have political awareness.
That's very true.
Do you think it's a problem of political awareness like in the Mona Msalhi now was speaking from the Sayyidah Zainab constituency, one of the most important constituencies in Cairo.
I know.
And it's very crowded and the turnout is high and people are flooding in since the early morning. But what about the political awareness? Do you think there is political awareness have developed ever since Mubarak's era?
No, during Mubarak's era,
2012
as people have really given up to exercise their right to cast their vote. Why? Because it was assumed that it will be the national party who would win, Al-Watani. Okay. Now we do have, challenges. Even civilian political parties are competing with each other. What I don't really see is, or has really taken place fundamentally, was this political awareness. Why? Because it is a process. You cannot just say that 4 or 5 years of practicing rights have changed the mentality of the people. It's a process,
I have a question
culture,
here, Dr. Mervat. How do you evaluate the political status and the political awareness, as we were just saying, after the June 30 revolution, during the past?
No, just before the June 30th. I believe what really struck or gave a momentous to the whole situation was this sense of identity and the Egyptian character. The Egyptian character was dominant in really, saying who we really are, okay? And you cannot play with Egyptians in their identity or their historical character, which has developed over time. By the way, it is not really strange when we hear that people of natural waters, rivers, okay, stem from a society that has a background in authoritarianism. This is how it was managed by the Chinese, by the Egyptians, by the Ashuris. They were all authoritarian governments. It is a historical issue, actually, with the Egyptians. But it's always the Egyptian people that are the driving force for change. Whatever change, whether it be positive or negative, by the way. But mostly in Egypt, it has been positive to something better, to something that really serves us as people.
Right. Dr. Madkour, speaking about, we were talking about political awareness and I didn't have time to continue with what you were saying.
Right.
How do you assess the political awareness? Do you think it is improving? Because we have been through 2 revolutions and we have seen things that we haven't. Do you think people are politically mature? Well, if you can
Right,
excuse
we
me
have,
again, we have with us
we have
Apparently
Nermeen
with
this
us
question
Nermeen
really is
Abdurrahman.
not
If
so
you can
lucky.
excuse
We
me,
have
we have
with us
Nermeen
Nermeen
Abdurrahman,
Abdurrahman, our correspondent at
Al Mansoura Governorate. Hello, Nermeen. Good morning.
Nermeen. Nermeen, would you update us on the situation at your polling station? Nermeen, can you hear us?
I guess we are exercising some technical difference. We're going to go back. Nermeen, are you there? We're exercising some technical difference, and we're going to go back to Nermeen. As soon as we contain this technical problem, we're going to go back to Nermeen again. And we were talking about the political maturity. Egyptians didn't have enough time to absorb or know or acknowledge or be able to realize the importance or got to know simply the people, the candidates. Maybe it's because of the time, maybe it's because of they are not politically mature enough or any other reason. So do you think this is going to affect the new parliament, or there are promising
You know
seeds?
why Egyptians are going today and went before for the elections of the members of parliament? I believe not to bring again,
Extreme
religious
or religious parties.
religious
But the problem
parties.
is not only religious parties. The problem is
It is
the right thing.
No, it is because, again, the identity. They believe that those who are Muslim political parties or have what we call political Islam, they don't want political Islam anymore. They have had a very bad experience. They saw how the country was torn apart in a way and a fashion that has never happened before.
You can allow us again. I'm sorry. We have Nermeen Abdurrahman from Al Mansoura constituency. Hello, Nermeen.
Good morning, Dina.
How are you, dear? If you can.
How are you today? As you see, we are starting our first coverage from Al-Daqahliya, from Al-Mansoura, the capital of this province. As you know, Al-Daqahliya is one of the most populous provinces in Egypt. We do have here nearly 4 million eligible voters. We do have here 1,759 committees. We do have 795 headquarters or polling stations, to be accurate. We do have 366 candidates all over Daqahliya. They are competing only for 29 seats in the coming parliament. In Al-Mansoura itself alone, we do have 61 candidates competing for 3 seats. Also, if you know about the security procedures taken here, they are very strict. The security personnel, whether from the army or police, received the headquarters since yesterday morning. And as we were here in Al-Nasriya or Muhammad Amin al-Baz school, we do have here 5 committees, and we also met with General Osama Shaban, the commander or the head of the civil protection forces. He was having his tour as he told us that starting yesterday, all the committees and subcommittees were completely secured with the civil protection forces. And we also are very much delighted to have with us here the first Undersecretary of Minister of Education, Mr. Ahmed Fikri, as he was also having a tour on many of the schools here to know more about the procedures taken and if there are anything to be introduced to whether the voters or those who are responsible for securing the place or the voters. If you permit me, I'm going to have just this very short interview with him.
Yes,
Mr. Ahmed, صباح الخير يا فندم.
صباح الخير يا فندم، صباح الخير على مصر كلها.
ممكن حضرتك تقول لي الجولة بتاعت حضرتك بدأت من امتى؟
الجولة بتاعتنا طبعا من يوم الخميس احنا بنجهز ونعد اللجان التربية والتعليم. عندنا 795 لجنة على مستوى محافظة الدقهلية، تم إعدادها إعداد جيد الأربعاء والخميس والجمعة والسبت، واليوم بقوم بجولة في اللجان عشان أشوف لو في احتياجات معينة. فبدأت بلجنة ديوان عام إدارة شرق المنصورة التعليمية، كانوا محتاجين يعني أسهم وتجهيزات معينة، أعددناها في الحال الساعة 7 صباحا. انتقلت على الفور مع السكرتير العام لمحافظة الدقهلية الأستاذة هناء إلى لجنة الزخرفية بالمنصورة. اطمأنيت على التجهيزات والإعداد الجيد للجنة والنظافة من 7 صباحا. اتفضلي يا فندم.
Mr. Ahmed Fikri said that starting 7 a.m. in the morning he started his tour along with another high-ranking official from the Dakhliya governorate to know exactly about all the details and if there are anything missing or anything which those who are responsible for those committees are in need for. And they moved from a school to the other to fulfill all the needs of those schools. Sir, كان في أي شكاوى؟
لا الحمد لله ليس هناك أي شكاوى حتى الآن، لأن احنا معدين إعداد جيد وعاملين استراحات للسادة المترددين على اللجان، واللجان مفروشة جيدا، دورات المياه جيدا، اللجنة تظهر بمظهر لائق يليق بمصر ويليق بالمنصورة. الحمد لله الإعداد جيد واطمئنوا، احنا بس في انتظار انزل انتخب ادلي بصوتك، هي دي مصر، مصر أولا.
شكرا يا فندم. Mr. Fikri said I was asking him about any complaints, and he said that thank God everything is okay and all the committees are well prepared and there is a full coordination and cooperation between the Ministry of Education and the security personnel, along with, of course, the judges who are here responsible for the voters. He also gave a nice invitation to all Egyptians to vote and to continue the third step of the roadmap, practicing their political right to choose the members of the new parliament. Dina?
Thank you very much. Nermeen from Al Mansoura Governorate would like to thank you very much, and she's going to continue her coverage throughout the day. Going back to you, Dr. Madkour, you were talking about what I asked.
I would like to ask you here, how do you see the importance of the third step of Egypt's accomplishing this step and having a new parliament? What message does this give to the world?
We are in completion of our roadmap. What we devoted ourselves to in June, actually on the 3rd of July 2013, we are fulfilling, okay? That the government, not really the government, but the president is serious about having the people governing with him this big country of Egypt. But let's go back to what you were asking me, Dina, because this is a very unfortunate question. Whenever we raised it, we have people
I'm sorry
asking.
to interfere.
No, it's okay. And now, we said political Islam, it was one of the major issues, that the National Party members or Al-Watani members will not return back, because in the eyes or in the view of the people, these were the reason why Egypt went down the drain all these years of the rule of Mubarak, okay? And in addition to the business or the money that is financing some of the candidates, unfortunately, in this election, which is normal and is happening everywhere, including the United States and Europe. Okay, so in fact, not having the business people stems from what? Because also the people blame our businessmen for their misery, for their being, poor, and their situation has not improved and was going down the drain towards January the 25th of 2011. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been seeing 2 revolutions in just 3 years. It was a miracle by all means. And we are always minimizing what happened. No, don't minimize. Especially the 30th of June. You went against all odds. In spite of the fact that we were threatened to be killed or beheaded or even burnt alive, we all went. Because it's the time of precipice. We felt that Egypt is really going down the drain, not we as people alone. It's the whole country. It's our love, Egypt.
Okay. Dr. Mervat, how do you expect the role of women?
Abdul Latif now from one of the constituencies.
Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Linda. Can you hear us?
Good morning, Dina. Good morning, Niveen.
Linda, can you please brief us on the situation at the polling station you're standing at?
Well, Dina and Naveen, I'm right now in Port Said Governorate, and more specifically in front of Ashtoumi Al-Gamil School. Now, in Port Said Governorate, we're having a total of 470,208 eligible voters. Now, we're having 3 constituencies and a total of 88 candidates on the individual system who will be competing on 4 seats. Now, as for the list system, there's a very important piece of information that we need to know about the constituency of East Delta, which includes 7 governorates, one of which is Port Said. Now, this list, or the constituency of East Delta, has only 1 list that is being voted for. So the voter actually has just 1 list to choose from. So here's how it goes. The voter is given a voting card that has the name of this specific list. Beside the name of the list, we have 2 sections, one in blue and one in red. For those who want to choose this specific list, the voter needs to mark the blue section. For those who do not want to vote for this specific list, the voter needs to mark the red section. And Port Said Governorate has actually 1 seat in this list. Now, as for the polling stations or polling centers right here in Port Said Governorate, we're having a total of 98 polling centers and a total of 213 subcommittees and 416 ballot boxes. Back to the 3 constituencies that I have mentioned earlier. Now, Ashtoumi Gamil School belongs to the constituency of Shar, which actually has a total number of 30 candidates competing on 1 seat. Now, as for the other 2 constituencies, there is the constituency of Al Dawahi, which has a total of 17 candidates competing on 1 seat, and the 3rd constituency is the constituency of Zuhur, which has a total of 30 candidates on the individual system competing on 2 seats. So this sums up how the constituency and the candidates are spread over the governorate of Port Said. Now, as to Ashtoumi Gamil School, where I am standing right now in front of, so here's the Ashtoumi Gamil School, and I'm right now standing in front of the school. As to this school, we're having 3 polling stations or 3 subcommittees and a total number of 7,119 voters. Now, this school is only for women, and I've seen that from the early morning and more, or to be more specific, at 8:30 a.m., women, whether old, young, or elderly, were standing in front of the school gates waiting for the opening of the polling stations in order to get in and cast their votes. Now, the interesting part, or the humane part in this voting process, or the elections of the 2015 parliamentary elections, is right here in Ashtoumi Gamil School. Special care and special attention is given to the disabled and the elderly. Now, the human rights section at the Ministry of Interior is providing some policemen and who are actually providing wheelchairs for the disabled in order to get them all the way to the polling stations or to the subcommittees where they will be casting their votes.
Right, Linda, a quick question because we're running out of time. As we all know, Port Said and so is, they have a long back history in nationalism and that national strong spirit that they have a history in combating all kinds of violence and invasion and terrorism and all that. So how did you feel that? Did you have a chance talking to someone, people who came to cast their ballots? You feel that people are politically aware that there?
Well, yes, as you've mentioned, the people of Port Said are known for the determination, actually, and their insistence on achieving whatever they want. Now, and that's what we have seen actually in front of Ashtoumi Gamil School. We've seen that people were very keen, and this school, I'm speaking about this school because it's only about women. So women were very keen to come in good numbers in order to be part of this very important day in the history of Egypt. Women were very keen to participate, and yes, I've managed to speak to some of them, and I actually asked them about their demands from the upcoming parliament, and they told me that they basically the general need is a better future for Egypt. Now, these specific needs to some of people were on top of the priority list were better education and better health conditions for the people of Port Said, and also better job opportunities for the youth as well.
Linda Abdel Latif, our correspondent at
Port Said.
Port Said, many thanks for your update. We'll be back to you for more updates.
Let me tell you one thing about Port Said in particular, because Port Said has never voted for, the National Party or for the Brotherhoods. It
That's
was
what I was telling her.
exactly. It
They're
is
very special.
always al-Wafd that was much more dominant.
Unfortunately, we're not supposed to
Okay.
mention any names for
Oh,
political
okay,
parties.
one of the parties. Okay, but it is a political reality, to be
Right.
honest.
Of course.
Anyways, let us go back. Did you see what women did? Okay, even
Right,
President
I have
Abdel
question
Fattah
regarding the
al-Sisi
women's
has
role.
called women to be the icon of the two uprisings or the two revolutions. Call it whatever you want to call it, but it was women. Why? Because we women feel always the danger. We are protective by nature. Okay, this is not something that you teach. It comes by nature. And this is the most important thing in you defending your country. You want a better future. You are the planner of the menage or the household. And
How do you
Egypt
expect
is like
the role
a
of the
big
women
household
in
for
the
all
upcoming
women.
parliament, Dr. Mervat? How do you expect the role of women, especially that we've seen women winners in the first
Mind
phase?
you, Niveen, what really breaks my heart about women in Egypt is that they take responsibility of everything. Sometimes they even do finance the household and not the man. And still they are not even educated. In every 3 women, you find 2, sometimes 1 true. But the problem is that politics in general is a luxury. Mind you, okay? It's a luxury. When will I think of politics? When I have my basic needs satisfied, okay? When I don't have them, how do you expect people to think of how they will be governed? You know, so we have really to better the 3 problems of Egypt: poverty, disease, okay, and illiteracy. We cannot hope for a better future when we have an illiteracy rate of 28%, when you have a poverty rate of 46%.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I want to again emphasize on the issue, women issue that you just mentioned, because it's worth talking about more and more. You said that you cannot talk about politics, you cannot interfere or intervene with politics unless your needs are fulfilled. But that is not the case with Egyptian women. Egyptian women, on any level, in any situation,
That goes back
they are the
to-
driving force
Exactly.
since the pharaohs.
Exactly.
And let me
exactly. I
also
agree
give
with
the
you.
credit not only to Egyptian women, the Syrian women, and
Let
not
me-
in
let
even
me
the Kurdish women
cut
in
cut
Kobani
the
also.
story short. Women in general.
Women in general.
It's God's creation in women that they are protective.
That's true.
Even in animals, Dina.
Right, that's true. But do you see the women participation in the electoral process and in the new parliament satisfying for you as one of the leading
No.
figures here?
No.
I mean, how do you assess the women participation?
Look, Dina, things do not get better just by hopes. Okay, when we hope that things would get better, this is not enough. But
So what's your formula? How do you imagine things to get
when we provide women with a little bit of an easy life, I'm not saying a luxurious life, because then I will be dreaming. Okay, no, I want women to have a good, education, a much better education, good, health care. We don't have all of that. But my aspiration is that if we have one like President al-Sisi, who really admires women and appreciates their role in life, and I hope that the parliament will be the same. I don't wish to see someone, in the parliament who is saying that women should go back to be, I don't know what, of the 12th century. They can live in the 12th century with my sanctions, but we don't want to live in the 12th century. We are looking for a better future for the whole country, and not just for women, Dina, because when you really work on the people, you really give them this luxury of practicing politics. But this raises another very important issue as well. What is democracy? We've been hearing since 2011, blah, 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 everywhere. But do we have democracy really as is or as has been advocated by people like Plato or Socrates or Aristotle? No. Because even the axiom, which is you have to have a certain number of people, which all of them determined, because they both Plato and Socrates and Aristotle were the scholars of Socrates, 512. You can find it on one floor or in one building, okay? So, because the main issue of democracy is that my aspirations, your aspirations, her aspirations, everyone's aspirations should be included. But this is not happening these days, and it will never happen, because the population are increasing and diversified in their interests and even in their aspirations. Okay? Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen Europeans going with Daesh, because it satisfies, their bloodthirst. It is, this a feeling of pleasure by killing others. It brings the worst of man. Always war brings what? The worst in us. But peace brings the best in any human being. Not just, us now as an Arab country.
Right. Dr. Mervat, in addition to the women, we also would like to refer to the youth. We've seen a lot of young nominees in the first phase and also in this phase. How do you see, or how do you expect the role of the youth in the upcoming parliament?
Look, Niveen, the youth have been misled a lot since 2011. Why? Because we don't have anymore this family unit as we used to have, my generation and probably yours as well. We are talking about those who are very young and easy to manipulate and easy to brainwash. Okay? The stress of economic problems have really, dissected a family unit. The mother and the father both have to work in order to have a decent life. So the mother who used to really sit and talk to us and put good values and manners and whatever, okay, in us is now absent. And these young generation are just doing what? Sitting on the internet, getting their information through the internet. Our educational system has driven these youngsters from reading. They get a quick information, which is superficial actually. It doesn't really talk to their brains, it doesn't satisfy them. And that's why they are victims to extreme ideas like Daesh or like before that Al-Qaeda. You are fighting, as the president said, thought.
Right. Dr. Madkour, speaking again about the upcoming parliament, of course there are many legislations are awaiting this parliament. Very important. Egyptians are waiting in anticipation. True. There are many decisions awaiting. What do you expect in the upcoming parliament, and do you think this is going to lift the weight over President Sisi's shoulder, because he has enough to handle on his hands, and especially that the upcoming parliament have got massive authority other than any other parliament before. So do you think this is going to change the coming political scene into the better, or what are we going to expect?
But I'm not so optimistic. Why? Because as we said, this ego of I, and not
the one-man show.
We. I'm scared that the civilian parties, okay, will fight each other instead of supporting each other. We are seeing how they do really conflict, or even they were quarreling.
We don't really have a strong party
or
parties. We don't have strong parties.
And for as long as we don't get out of that, we will always have weakened political parties. I hope that with time and with the identification of people with certain political parties, that we will have what I call an advancement or a progress in our political awareness, and therefore our political participation
Right, Dr. Mervat Madkour, Professor of Political Economy of the Middle East Research and Development. Many thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Naveen.
And dear ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of this edition of the Breakfast Show. Many thanks for joining us. And of course, we're looking for a higher turnout of voters during the second phase, which starts today, Sunday, the 22nd of November, and ends tomorrow, Monday, the 23rd of November, by the end of the day.